Today you're going to read a fantasy story called Clark the Shark. A fantasy is a type of story that could not happen in real life. The characters are often animals that behave like people, and it may include magic. So, in order to be a successful reader, one of the skills that we're going to work on is ask and answer questions. You've already learned how to find the topic of a text. Today we will answer a multiple choice question by using the race strategy because this helps us think about the text when we are reading. So how we're going to be successful today? The first thing we're going to do is restate the question, and we're going to do that by circling the question words. So we need to find who, what, when, where, why, or how. Those are all question words that we could be looking for. Then we're going to underline the important words, and we're going to use those words to begin the answer. The next thing we're going to do is cite text evidence. Then we'll answer the question, and we'll eliminate the wrong answer choices and circle the correct answer. So we are going to look at asking and answering questions. We can do this before reading, during reading, or after reading. Why are we doing this? We're doing this to get information, to help us understand the text, to practice being awake and thinking while we read, and to be curious and wonder as we read. So here are the question words we're going to ask. We're going to ask who, what, where, when, why, and how. In your orange reading book, the one that has the number 1 on it, go ahead and pause the video until you turn to page 14. You should see the story, Clark the Shark. Okay, now that you're on this story, we're going to start reading. Before we begin reading, I want you to make a prediction. What do you think this story is going to be about? All right, let's read to see if your prediction comes true. So follow along, please, as I read. In all the wide blue seas, in all the wide blue world, the top school for fish was Theodore Roosterfish Elementary. And of all the fish at Theodore Roosterfish, the biggest and strongest was Clark the Shark. Clark loved school, and he loved his teacher, Mrs. Inkydink. He loved to play upsy-downsy and spin-a-majig with his friends. Clark loved his life. Why do you think the author put loved in a different font? Think about that for a second. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. School is awesome, shouted Clark the Shark. Less shouting, more reading, said Mrs. Inkydink. Lunchtime is sweet, yelled Clark the Shark. Munch your own lunch, said his best friend Joey Mackerel. Recess rocks, bellowed Clark the Shark. You are playing rough, Clark. Yes, Clark loved his life with all of his sharky heart, but he loved everything way too much. He was too loud. He was too wild. He was just too much shark for the other fish to handle. After a while, no one would play with Clark. No one ate lunch with him. No one sat with him at circle time. Even his best friend, Joey Mackerel, said, "Cool your jets, Clark. You're making me crazy." One day, Clark asked Mrs. Inkydink, "What's wrong with everyone?" Mrs. Inkydink patted his fin. "Clark, sometimes you play too hard, you munch too hard, and gosh, you even help too hard." "But life is so exciting," said Clark. There's a time and a place for everything," said Mrs. Inkydink, "and sometimes the rule is stay cool." At recess, Clark tried to stay cool, but he pushed the swing with too much zing. "Sorry," said Clark, "I forgot." "Yikes!" cried Joey Mackerel. At lunch, Clark tried to stay cool, but everything smelled so good that he munched a bunch of lunches. "Sorry," said Clark, "I forgot." "We're starving." said his friends. In class, Clark tried to stay cool, but a good book got him all shook up. Now, Clark, said Mrs. Inkydink, this isn't the time or place. Tell me, what's the rule? Stay cool, said Clark. Hey, that rhymes, he cried. Then Clark got a big idea in his sharky head. Maybe if I make a rhyme, I'll remember every time, he thought. The next day, he put his plan to work. In class, when lessons got exciting, Clark wanted to bounce up out of his seat. Instead, he told himself, when the teacher's talking, don't go walking. And what do you know? It worked. Attaboy, Clark, said Mrs. Inkydink. Clark smiled. Lessons are fun. At lunch, everything smelled so yummy. When Clark wanted to eat and never stop, he told himself, only munch your own lunch. And it worked again. Way to go, Clark, said his friends. Clark grinned. Lunch is fun. At playtime, Clark told himself, easy does it. That's the way. Then my friends will let me play. And playtime was fun once more. Clark loved his life. But then a shadow fell across the playground, a ginormous shadow with tentacles galore. It's a new kid, and he looks scary, cried Joey Mackerel. Swim for your lives! The squid squashed the slide, and it snapped off the swings. Oops, my bad, said the new kid. Wait, said Clark. He just wants to play. Let's find a way. And he swam at the new kid with all his might. Clark played harder than he had ever before. Upsy-downsy and spin-em-a-jig. Why, he even made up a new game. Tail-wumpa-lumpus. Wow, that was fun, said the new kid breathlessly, and he settled down. If you want to come to school, you've got to stay cool, said Clark. That's right, Clark, said Mrs. Inkydink, and thanks for taking care of our new classmate, said the squid. Hooray for Clark the shark! Everyone cheered. That night, Clark's mother asked, What did you learn at school, dear? There's a time and a place for everything, Clark said. Sometimes you stay cool. But sometimes a shark's gotta do what a shark's gotta do. All right, think about that prediction you made at the beginning of this story. Did your prediction come true? Was it right? Or maybe were you off a little bit? It's okay if our predictions are not right. That just helps us think about what might happen in the story and it makes it more exciting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is look at my question. I'm answering, what is Clark doing in the picture on page 17? So here's Clark in this picture, and I'm going to look at it and see, what is he doing? Well, is he eating the other fish? Is he chasing the other fish? Is he smiling and playing with the other fish? Or is he teaching the other fish? Well, in this picture, it looks like he's chasing the other fish around, isn't he? He's not eating them. He is smiling and playing, but it looks like he's chasing them because the other ones don't look like they're having much fun. So for this one, I would circle the letter B. He's chasing the other fish. Okay, the next one. Which sentence does not help us understand what is happening in the pictures? So again, look at this picture. We need to know which one is not helping us understand. So Clark is much bigger than his classmates. Clark looks happy, but his classmates are trying to read. C, Clark is shouting and bothering his friends. Or D, Clark the shark is staying cool. So which one does not help us understand the picture? So if we look at the answer, Clark is much bigger than his classmates. And you see that picture, do you see Clark is bigger? Clark is bigger in that picture, so that's helping us understand. We do not want to circle A. B said Clark looks happy, but his classmates are trying to read. Look at Clark's face. He looks happy, doesn't he? But look at his friends. They all have books, and one person is doing this to him, which means, oh, Clark, quiet down, please. So it looks like this one is also true. We're not going to circle B either. C says Clark is shouting and bothering his friend. So look at Clark. He does look like he's shouting too. His mouth is wide open. And when our mouths are wide open, that kind of means that we're shouting if we're talking loudly. And he's bothering his friends because we see that one friend doing this again. So that one does describe the picture. We're not going to circle it. And D, Clark the shark is staying cool. Is he staying cool? Doesn't look like it because he's super excited. So the one that does not help us understand the picture is D. We would circle D if this was our paper and we could mark it. Okay. How does Clark decide to follow Mrs. Inky Dink's advice? What does Clark do? A, Clark makes up a rhyme that will help him stay cool. B, Clark got a big idea in his sharky head. C, he shouts. Or D, Mrs. Inky Dink asks him for the rule. Which one do you think is the answer to this? Look back at the text. Remember, he tries to come up with rhymes to help him remember the rules. So the one that talks about making a rhyme would be A. Clark makes up a rhyme that helps him stay cool. So you would circle A for this one if we could. Okay, now you're going to click next and you're going to work on your independent work on the Pear Deck slide.